The following is a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
From the birthplace of modern winemaking, Sonoma, California, welcome to The Winemakers. Local experts Sam Couturi, Bart Hansen, and Brian Casey invite you to listen in as they discuss all facets of winemaking. So sit back, pour yourself a glass, and let's hear what the guys have to say this week.
Hello, welcome to The Winemakers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Today we have Jenny Murphy.
It's the second pod.
Second episode. Haven't done this in a while. Two in a row, back to back.
Wait a minute. It's the second time and you almost got it wrong?
Yes, and it might have had to do with that whole glass of Chablis that I drank for our earlier podcast. But
Slammed.
I told you guys you need to break me in for DTC.
This is part of the DTC marathon training.
Yeah, this is my training. This is why we train. Okay, so we have Jenny Murphy from Oxlee Graham Wines with us today, which is a guest. Jenny, we met at a Diam Cork blind tasting.
We did,
They sponsored a blind tasting over at the CIA in St. Helena. And yeah, I met you there and you had just broken off on your own. You used to be the winemaker for Paul Hobbs for a very, very long time. If anybody's ever heard of that wine.
What was how big was Paul Hobbs when you started, and then how big was it when you left?
Paul Hobbs itself didn't change by that much. I mean, how much wine we made.
Yeah.
But we had a team of, I think we were a team of 5 at Paul Hobbs, and then we had our secondary winery, Cross Barn, which is the one that really had a glow up.
So that was already going when you started.
It was going. We made about 10,000 cases there when I started, and there was a team of 4 people. And now they're closer to probably 60,000 cases a year.
Yeah.
And Cross Barn has its own facility, it sounds like, obviously.
Yeah, it does. And it has its own winemaking team.
And then did you ever go down to, where else is Paul making wine?
All that South American wine.
Yeah. So I went down to Argentina and worked with that team. Got to drive Paul's car around, stay in his house.
Wait, what kind of car? Sounds like
it
there's a story
was
there.
like the only automatic in Argentina, so which is great because I can't drive a stick. But
What kind of car
it was like a Toyota Camry. It wasn't anything fancy, but I was thankful I could drive it when driving in Argentina is already a challenge. So you try to make a left turn from the right lane, or you try to make a left turn from the left lane, and everyone honks at you because you're supposed to do it from the right lane, which makes no sense.
Wait, what? So it's not like London where you're driving on the other side.
To the shoulder if you need to make a left turn so you don't hold up traffic.
Right, and wait for it to clear, and then you go.
But I didn't,
so you just
coming from California, I didn't know that.
The whole
That
time.
seems stupid.
Yeah.
No,
Well, they don't have a left-hand turning lane.
What happens when Argentinians get to Los Angeles? Like
They're probably doing the same thing.
what happens when anybody gets to Los Angeles that hasn't driven there?
You take some stimulants and then you get angry and then you can keep up.
So full disclosure, I'm going to break the fourth wall here.
No.
We already met with Jenny.
No,
You're going to pretend like this didn't happen?
100%.
Okay.
Well, the thing that Brian is pretending like didn't happen.
Yeah.
But there's the wines that you had that we have to talk about that you aren't here today.
Oh, like this Picpoul Chenin Blanc on the table right here? Are you kidding? I've already drank half of it.
I admire your commitment, Brian.
Alvarinho, what? Yeah, boy. Let's get into some of that.
Welcome back, Jenny.
Thank you.
It's really
Thank
nice to
It's
see you
good
again.
to be back.
This is, despite all of our, sort of production
Dilemmas.
noviceness. This is the first time we've ever truly had to just like straight start from scratch. You came in it last week. We had a great episode. We loved every minute of it. And the SD card that we recorded it onto only got the first 30 seconds and was totally corrupted. So we wanted you back quickly.
It's one of those wow. I know, because we absolutely love the wines and love you. And this Pinot's fucking great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's a Brian Pinot. We started with the Brian
Yes,
wine.
I know.
All right, we're right back in it. Last week
yeah.
never happened.
Why is it so light? What do you think? What was the deal? Is it the vineyard? Was it the way you made the wine?
So
Well,
we're
we're
drinking her Oxlee Graham Mabel's Pinot Noir from Alder Springs 2022.
So 2022 this is my first vintage. So these are the 2 first wines that I made and released for the brand. But the 22 vintage up at Alder Springs was really interesting because it snowed in April, and
Does that happen a lot up there?
Not a lot up there. It was kind of a freak snowstorm, and they lost about 90% of the vineyard. So this is one of the 10% that made it out that year.
Wow.
So I think weather definitely had something to do with it. But
that is so good.
But every vintage is light, and I think it's just a vineyard thing. So this wine is just, it's lighter in color, but it's like full of savory kind of notes. I call her my Burgundian offering of the lineup. Because it's just savory and has some mountain strawberry, but mostly is just herbs and spices. But when I pour this wine for people are kind of like, that's a Pinot? That looks like a rosé. And I say, just taste it. I swear it's all there. Like there's no holes. It's not light in flavor. It has all of that kind of power that a Pinot should have, a delicate Pinot should have. So.
Okay.
You need to.
So Alder Springs, it's a fairly famous vineyard. There's a lot of people who get wine out of there. As the first year buying grapes for your own brand, how the fuck did you beat all those other guys to the last remaining 10% that happened?
Yeah, so I actually participated in a women in wine group called Batonage my first year, kind of on my own. And I was a mentee, and then I became a mentor the next year in production. But I was a mentee, so I had all these great mentors that were, sales and vineyards and things that I was not an expert in. I know how to make wine. I don't know how to do any of the other stuff, really.
We'll get into all your background again. Yeah. We all know it.
Yeah.
The people who are listening haven't heard the story yet.
But so I had a great mentor that's been just working vineyards forever. And her husband was consulting up at Alder Springs, and I was telling her I'm really looking for some different whites is actually how I ended up there. And last week we talked about how I like to impulse buy fruit a lot. But so
careful. That's a bad thing.
I know. So I ended up at Alder Springs looking for Chenin Blanc. And they didn't have any.
Driving around with Stu.
Yep, driving around with Stu, and they had Picpoul, and so I got all nerdy, and I thought, yeah, Picpoul's the thing. But they also had this beautiful block of Pinot, and I am a huge clone dork, so I'm like, well, what clones do you have? And they had this Swan. This is primarily Swan, and there's one row of 459 that Stu says when he goes to France, that's what they always tell him is their secret ingredient, is this 459 clone, which I've never worked with in my career. Most people haven't even heard of it.
Nope.
So I had this Swan, this one row of 459, and then a little bit of Calera in another block. And one of my favorite Pinots that I made at Paul Hobbs was Swan and Calera co-fermented. And so I thought, this is going to be so great. And then, of course, the Calera froze. So I was left with Swan and 459. And Swan is kind of famous for being light in color. It doesn't have a ton of color, so I think that's part of what is going on in this glass. But then after that first year, this was just, I fell in love with this wine. Like I cold soaked it for 6 days. I normally only cold soak for 5. And I was just like praying it picked up color, but then it just started fermenting. So I thought, okay, well, I guess we're done with that. so, and I do, everything I do is native. So I'm kind of at the mercy of what's happening in tank. But so I okay, it's fermenting. And then it was kind of reductive when it was done. And so I'm like, okay, I'll give it a splash. So this was like a wine that I made in a totally different way than I normally would a Pinot. But it just became this magical thing. So now I have this is my block up at Alder Springs for this Pinot, and it's different every year. Gives me something completely.
Do you still get any of the Calera or just the 459?
I don't even bother with the Calera. I just do the Swan and the 459 because I love it. I think it's just something really unique. And then I get the Chenin Picpoul blend, which we tasted last week, and is a really fun little blend that's been kind of my best seller.
So since I missed that, could
tell
you
the story about the Chenin?
We all missed it. Everybody missed that.
Oh, that's right.
Because that's another, like, last time we recorded, I mentioned to Jenny, I was like, I love that you're telling the true story behind this wine, because you're gonna make a good wine no matter what happens. And as a winemaker of a small production, like sometimes you get what you get and you just have to roll with it. And so in this instance, you got what you got, and you made a wine that, I mean, I do not prefer Pinots. I would drink this. I would open this bottle by myself and drink this wine. This is delicious. Yeah. I really, really love this. So, I mean, and that's sometimes where the magic happens. So please tell your Picpoul Grenache Blanc story. Or,
Chenin Blanc.
Chenin Blanc, sorry.
Yeah.
Story again. Yeah. Because that's also
Picpoul Grenache Blanc makes sense.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
So the story was that, I mean, kind of part of this Pinot is I was up at Alder Springs and they didn't have any Chenin, so I ended up with Picpoul, and it was one of the things that froze in 22. So I didn't have any white for my first vintage. And then in 23, I was contracted again for that same block of Picpoul, 2 tons, and it didn't ripen. I got to 15 bricks and it just stopped. So they called me, and I'm on this other pick that we talked about that was kind of horrendous. Everyone left to take a nap. So I was out picking Pinot at 2 a.m. by myself, but and with the owner. She's 80 and she was out picking with me. So we were out picking Pinot, and I get this phone call in the morning from Alder Springs, and they say, we have really bad news. We don't think the Picpoul's going to make it again. And I'm like already close to tears because I've been picking all night and I don't know if this Pinot's going to get off the vine. And so then I said, okay. And they said, well, how do you feel about Chenin? And I'm kind of like, it's almost laughable, right? Because I went there looking for Chenin, ended up with this impulse bought Pinot and Picpoul. And so I said, well, I'll come up and look at it and we'll see what we think. And so I went up there, and the Chenin was just, it looked so overripe. I mean, because I'm not used to Chenin. So now I'm used to it and I'm like, yeah, this is perfect, you know, but it had like botrytis everywhere, and it was just kind of sunburnt and like looked really funky. And then we looked at the Picpoul, and it's like still pristine because it's like, I'm still ripening. I don't know what you're doing, but because they ended up having a half ton. Yeah, they had a half ton of Picpoul in another block. So I said, okay, well, if we're gonna do it, we got to do it today. So then of course I'm like, again, that impulse buying fruit, but I'm like, we've got to pull it like tonight if we're gonna do it, because this Chenin's not going to make it any further, and the Picpoul tastes fine. But I had no idea what it was going to turn into. And so I brought them all in. I threw them all in the same press, whole cluster, pressed it. And it just, I could tell from the get that it was going to be.
And so what was your juice when you pressed it? What did you end up at?
Bricks wise?
Yeah.
It was like 20 bricks.
Yeah. Okay. So workable.
Yeah. Workable.
Yeah, thank God the Chenin was what it was.
Yeah. The Chenin was what it was. And actually the Picpoul came from a different block than I was contracted. So that was riper. It wasn't 15. But it was like perfect.
70.
And the alcohol was 12.1 on that first vintage. And it was just this beautiful wine that just the Chenin could be, it's pretty kind of, I think Chenin can tend towards flabbiness. So it's kind of this pretty flabby, floral, pomaceous thing. And then the Picpoul is just like, no, girl, we're going to drive this thing home. So he comes in, she comes in. I call them all girls. They come in and just drives the whole show home. So they're really fun to put together. And so it's now a wine that's in my lineup. So cool. I've been playing with percentages. And
remind me what the percentage of that one that we tried.
The first one that we tried was 67 Chenin, 33 Picpoul. My second vintage, 24, was 50-50 split. And then I've kind of gone back to a little more Chenin in the
for 25.
Yeah. And that wine is really delicious. So if you see it out there, or contact Jenny and pick that up, because it's a spectacular wine.
We recorded that episode a week ago, or tried to record that episode a week ago. In that time, Brian has had the ability to buy all of it. It's sitting on the wall. There is none left in the world.
It's in the bathroom cellar.
It's in the
bathroom cellar. That's exactly.
It's going into the secondary market.
Yeah. How much do you sell that wine for? By
$38.
$38. Okay.
And what's the industry discount? Is that the next question?
We'll talk later.
Case discount. Yeah. All right. So, do we want to get into a little bit of history? You are a California kid.
California kid. Yeah. I grew up in San Jose, Silicon Valley. So, no real background in wine. It was something that I landed here after going to a seminar in college from Gallo.
Was that one of those, you're graduating college and you can come work for Gallo?
Yeah.
And was it a sales, like entry-level sales
No,
position?
it was a chemistry. I was a chemist.
Okay.
So.
This is one of our very few UC Davis graduates who didn't go there for wine.
No, and I took no wine classes while
Okay.
there. So 100% chemmistry was forensic.
Still put it on your resume, though,
Forensic
right?
based,
UC
yeah,
Davis.
of course. I mean, I did go to school there.
Go Aggies.
But I was very, I thought I was for sure going into forensics. So all of my undergrad research, all of my internships, everything was in forensic
Like
biotech.
CSI.
Like CSI. I wanted to work in a lab. I wanted to solve crimes. I wanted to help people is what I was told. My mom, and I'm like, well, look at me now. I'm not helping people. She goes, honey, you are helping.
Way
people."
more.
Yeah.
Solve one crime. It's only one person that you're helping.
That's right. But so forensics was definitely my path. And then it was 2009 when I graduated and the economy sucked and counties weren't going to hire. So I started kind of thinking, well, what else could I do in the meantime?
Crime was
And-
down.
Crime was way down. They didn't need me.
There was no DNA to collect anywhere in the world.
No
No,
money to
no.
steal.
So Gallo came and did a presentation and said, we're looking for chemists
Yeah,
to come in
yeah.
and do our research. And so I'll retell my story about my roommate, but
For the first time.
for the first time, I'll tell the story about my roommate who is now married to somebody with the last name Seuss. So she is a doctor and she is Dr. Seuss, but
Awesome.
Is unfortunately not a pediatrician.
no. But so she and I both were chemistry majors, and she and I applied for this Gallo job because she lived in Modesto. Gallo's in Modesto. And I thought, well, I might as well apply. But then me being me, I was like, well, how come I didn't get a call? She got the job. And I was like, why didn't I get the job? So I kept calling them. But in the meantime, I went to the job fair at Davis, and there were, tons of wineries looking for interns. So I ended up talking to Corbel. I ended up at Corbel. I ended up getting the Gallo job because I was so annoying. But then I also didn't take it, which is also probably really annoying.
Nah, that's my favorite part of the story, to be honest.
Bug the shit out of them, and then they finally offer you the job.
No, I'm going to
took too long.
Forestville.
Yeah, so I ended up at
Better than
Corbel,
Modesto.
which I do think is the only reason I'm still in the industry, because I just fell in love with kind of the outdoors and, being a lab intern. I got to drive my golf cart around Corbel and take samples and do all the bricks and temps, but it just felt like you were part of something. And I think if I was just in a lab at Gallo, I might not have had that same
Well,
passion.
hence Dr. Seuss, who is
Yeah.
not in the wine industry.
No,
so.
now she's like saving lives, which I guess is helping people, but not quite the same.
I got a couple questions about Corbel. Are they called Corbel Champagne?
They are, yeah.
How-
Last one, right?
So
Yeah.
were they were kind of like
They were
grandfathered
grandfathered
in?
in, yeah.
Yeah.
And then with the wines they're making there, I think I've heard you talk about this.
On some other podcast.
Yeah, actually, not on this one. Because they kind of are trying to replicate the same wines every year for their consumers.
Yeah.
Which I don't think we talk about that a lot on this show. That the larger wineries, if you come visit them or buy their wine and you like their wine, they kind of want to recreate those wines every year because they want you to
Yeah.
keep enjoying those wines, as opposed to smaller places that are very vineyard at the mercy of vineyard. So can you just talk a little bit about like how you do that? It wasn't like, was it a software system? Was it just you guys knew the numbers that you needed to hit to make wines like that?
Yeah.
That's why they have a chemistry lab.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I wasn't a winemaker at Corbel, so I wasn't part of those blending trials or anything, but I do think that kind of the mass produced wines, they get kind of a bad rap, but they're so well executed. Like
Yeah.
if someone goes to the grocery store and wants a bottle of Corbel Brut, they want it to taste like that Corbel Brut they had 10 years ago when they opened it with their friends and really enjoyed it, or Kendall Jackson Chardonnay. They just want that wine.
Yeah.
And that's really hard because our vintages are so different, and like my wines are vastly different depending on what year I pulled the fruit in, but they are looking at numbers, they're looking at color, they're looking at,
Can I add something to that
Sure.
from my experience? I worked at Kenwood during, and I was there before, but when Corbel came in. But one thing that we did, because we made 30,000 cases of Sauvignon Blanc. And so, their wineries aren't even that big anymore. Right. And that was just one variety. And so when we did our blends, we had the current vintage was always at the end of the table. And it was like, regardless of what all this takes, like that's a better version of that, but that is what we're aiming at. Yeah. And that's where the blending part comes in. And yes, by the numbers of what you have, that if you can get there or not. And then if not, then how do you do it? Is it acid additions? Is it a little bit of sugar? Is it, and then leaving certain lots out and having a place for those. Yeah. So it's all about the blending at that point when you're really looking at that amount of wine.
And so scientific. Like a lot of the big boys, I think, are looking at numbers so much more than going by the feel, just like how I do it. Right. But being a chemist, I really appreciate, all of that kind of scientific approach. And I think that they don't get the credit that they deserve, because I think that winemaking is way harder than what I do, because I can really go with quality and feeling, and, it doesn't have to, this Mabel's tastes so different than the 23, and they don't have to taste the same.
Yeah.
There's a linearity.
You don't want them to taste the same.
No, and there's a linearity, like, they're from the same vineyard, but they're not going to taste identical. And then you can tell the story of the year. This one, everything froze, So it becomes part of the storytelling, where I think the big boys, they don't have that. They just want to stick their wine on the shelf, and my granny wants to go buy that same wine that she buys every week, So that's kind of how that works. But
Granny's got to get her wine.
She's got to.
And I think that works on both the taste of the wine. That works at both the taste of the wine and the package. Like if you're one of those wineries that everybody knows exactly where it is on that shelf, and all of a sudden the next year you come out with a new vintage and you've changed the packaging, it puts people into a tailspin, and then they'll think it tastes different.
Oh, like they have someone new on the team now, so they're doing something different.
Well, every time there's a new marketing person, the marketing person usually wants to, make some sort of change to put it on, their mark on it.
Yeah.
So
that happens to me trying to buy my freaking kids gluten-free chicken nuggets, man. I'm like, what? This used to be the gluten-free one. Why is it green? Why is it green now? Yeah, it happens. You got to be careful.
So did you get pulled away from Korbel by Paul Hobbs, or you just thought it was at some point time to...
No, I was an intern, so I knew there was an end date to that job. But I thought it was like a 3-month internship. I ended up being there for 8 months. They liked the work I did and tried to keep me as long as they could. And again, I think that helped kind of further my interest in the industry. So I kind of thought, hey, I want to try that again. And so when I started applying, I was applying to the big boys, Sutter Home, all the places I thought had a cool mass spec or big instruments, because I was a chemist in the wine industry. I wasn't a winemaker.
Toys.
I wanted fun toys, and I thought my role was in the lab. So I replied to a blind posting from a winery. I didn't know who they were. And the winemaker replied, "You look qualified, come on in." And I'm like, okay. So, and it ended up being Paul Hobbs, and I just had a good interview with them. I met with Paul. He wanted someone that could come in and revamp their QC, rewrite their protocols. So he kind of was looking for a science-based person. And so he said, well, you have my vote. And I'm like, well, great. I guess and then everyone's like, that's a good vote to have. And I was like, well, okay. Like, I didn't know anything. I didn't know who Paul was. I didn't know anything about the winery. Because again, I wasn't from the wine industry. So I'm like, okay, cool. Which I think they almost kind of liked, because I wasn't like, oh, I've got to add this to my resume, Right.
So Paul, UC Davis?
Paul got his master's there.
Okay.
His undergrad was Notre Dame.
Okay. And how big was Paul Hobbs at that point? You were working?
It was we were making about 20,000 cases, and 5 people. Again, Crossbarn was kind of our second limb, because I was the enologist for Paul Hobbs and Crossbarn. So it was an important part of the story of my growth in the career was Crossbarn's growth. And then it had a whole custom crush aspect at Crossbarn too. So we had a ton of clients at the beginning, which kind of whittled down by the time Crossbarn was in its growth phase, or glow up phase, as I like to call it.
And if I remember correctly, Crossbarn is under a screw cap, right? Was it?
Chardonnay Pinot.
Chardonnay Pinot,
we moved the Pinot to cork at one point, and it really really pissed off some Psalms, so we had to move it back to
Was it Psalms or bartenders and servers that just
both,
didn't
yeah.
like to? Yeah,
they were like, because it was a buy the glass program, so it
100%,
was just something that they were like, we don't want to mess with the cork. And,
yeah.
But the cabs are always cork.
But you're kind of a cork dork, so how
I'm
did
a
you
huge
feel
cork
about
dork.
that?
I was like, yeah, let's move it to cork, because I bought all the corks for the whole company. So I even moved some of what we were doing in Argentina to a certain cork brand that didn't work out well. So
Wait, who do you really like?
I work with Genau. So, and I've worked with a lot of different cork companies, and they're all great. And, you know, you build these relationships, and so it's like nothing's personal. It's all just, you know, but then it's nice to have a company that you really like the ownership, and everyone that works there is.
It's all good until you get a bag that doesn't look like your samples, right?
Right. So a story about cork. So I'm one of those people that I would have to go and look at the bales myself, because I didn't trust any samples that they gave me. I had one company that they kept pulling that fast one on me, and I was like, no. So I would go look at all the bales. And I went to Genau, and I'm buying their top of the line. Well, was top of the line. They just announced a new iteration. I'm like, well, now I want that one.
And the one that you like, the top that is now, will be the same price, and then the new one that you like even more will be slightly more expensive.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But I went in and I said, you know, I'm not getting samples from this because this is such a niche kind of thing. And this was when I was at Paul Hobbs, and I still use these corks for my brand now. But Mariella, who's the owner of Genau USA, she was like, no, let me show you. And she's just such a badass. Like, she just like went in there, ripped the bag open, and like the sales guy, who I love to death, I won't name him because he'll be embarrassed, but he's like trying to open the bag and he can't get it open. And then she's just like, get out of here. Like, let me do it. And then she's showing me how she sorts and exactly how it works. And so it's just like, there's this level of trust that I don't listen to sales pitches. I want to see the actual like nuts and bolts of how something works. So I really trust them. And I have, knock on wood, yet to have a corked bottle because they're all guaranteed. And so if anyone ever gets something of mine that's corked, send it back, please, because they'll pay me retail price for those wines. So there's an important detail in that, because the corks that we get are different company, but same. For those people listening, if you get a corked bottle from Oxlee Graham or 16600, you got to put it back in the way it came out. So it's still like the wine side down has to go back in down. Otherwise, the cork companies.
Why is that?
I don't fuck. That's the rules. So we get our money back. I'm not exactly sure what.
But what if you pull it out, you put it in the wrong way, and then you realize on the way there, and then you turn it around and put it back in?
Well, don't say that on like a podcast or something,
right?
I mean, how are they going to know? I don't understand. I think there should be like you said, a trust thing where they go, hey,
well, and
they can smell it.
I honestly haven't had that. I use their Unique, which is kind of an agglomerated cork for my whites, to keep bottle price down. Yeah. Because these corks cost, $1.30 a cork or something. So they're expensive when you're thinking of a bottle price. So I use Unique, and I've had a couple that have leaked, but just kind of like they're sponges. So I've told them about that, and they take them back and they do all their analysis. And, so it's really nice that they're responsive and want to know all my issues, but that's the only issue I've had. And they've not been with the natural corks, which is kind of funny. Of course, natural corks have wormholes and things like that leak. And I think I've had one. I had one really recently. And because I hand wax everything, I see every bottle come out. So I'm like, oop, there's another leaker. But it's been like 4 out of the, 2,000 cases I've made. So that's pretty good odds.
But for someone like you, so small, and especially making something like Albarino or a Picpoul Chenin, I mean, have you just thought about doing a screw cap? Because most of those wines are going to be drunk fairly quickly. You just can't do it.
No, well, part of it is logistics for me, because I use the same bottle for everything except the Petit Verdot. And so I can over vintage and keep it stocked, and I don't have to have 3 different bottles in my storage. Right. And I only have to have 2. So it is kind of a logistics thing. But then I also I like the wax. I like the tradition of pulling the cork.
Also, screw caps they have plastic lining. You're putting plastic on your wine.
She's putting Wisconsin cheese wax on the
that
top
doesn't
of
touch
her
the
bottles.
wine.
And it doesn't have to be manufactured.
Right.
It's not processed. I mean, it's processed, but it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. The agglomerated has a little more processed.
It's not petroleum based.
And I think honestly, the logistic piece, especially if you're a small producer of doing the screw caps, it's a different bottling line. It's, there's a whole like aspect of it that becomes almost less economical at the end of the day because it's, you have to get different bottles. You have to, it makes things way more complicated. If you're making 1,000 cases of something or 10,000 cases of something, you can, maybe it makes more sense. But for a small producer, it's tough to get your mind around screw caps. I think that's right.
Yeah. It's just harder for me. And I'm so used to cork. So, being a cork dork, it's, I like the kind of classic look, and it is just so much easier to have one main bottle that I
Are you
use.
the same way about bottles too? Do you get them from a specific person that you really like?
I don't. They're great.
You don't like any of them.
I don't like anybody. No, I do have, people that I would like to be working with, but they don't have the pricing. And all of my glass is domestic, so it's mostly from Mexico, which is considered domestic. Because it doesn't get on a tanker ship. Yeah. So it just gets on a truck and is delivered. Yeah. So I don't want Chinese glass, which a lot of manufacturers have Chinese glass, or it's coming from like Ohio or something. And they're like, we can't meet your quality standards. So there's some California glass that I've used in the past that didn't meet the quality standards. So it's kind of like, I want Mexican glass. And so that limits who I can buy from. Or I want domestic glass, but Mexico is the best quality that I've seen for the price. Right. Because that's the other thing is the pricing. So I use Encore glass, and I have all the Pinots and the whites are in a mold called Classique that is just very classic. And it's, pretty much every glass producer has this mold. My Petit Verdot is a little more unique. I don't know what the other places call it. Encore calls it the Clark. But it's got this like more feminine shape to it that I like a lot for a Bordeaux bottle. And the other thing that's important to me is that all the bottles fit very nicely on a wine rack in a wine fridge.
For all the consumers out there. Yeah, totally.
More than a ding. That one gets a clap.
Let's talk a little bit about your Albarino. And then what was the name of your
it's
Picpoul Chenin?
Eleanor.
And then your Albarino is called
the Margaret.
So all
I'm picking up on what you're throwing down right now.
Yeah. So
what's the theme?
Yeah. So all my wines are named after women. So the brand is named Oxlee Graham after my grandmothers. And those are their maiden names. So I wanted to pick strong women that came before me. To name a brand after that's run by a woman. And I really like how different my two grandmothers were. So my granny Oxlee was very like, she's a stay-at-home mom, kept a perfect household, perfectionist to the max, very kind of white collar family.
Where in
she grew up in Alameda, lived in Berkeley. Okay. So my grandpa built their house in the Berkeley Hills in the 40s. And my label is a depiction of the view from their window. So, so you're looking at Marin on the label, but my sister's an artist. So my sister is the label designer.
Shout out. What's her name?
Joelle.
Joelle
Turnus. My brother-in-law will want me to throw that in. We had a whole conversation at dinner last weekend about this because I had to say who my label designer was for a different publication, and then my brother-in-law's like, we should just call it Turnus and like make a logo, and I was like, you didn't do anything, why are you trying to take credit?
Trying to jump on your train.
Right, exactly.
But so my other grandmother, Graham portion, she was very blue collar. She grew up very poor in a family of 12, and she
12 kids?
12 kids. She did construction with her dad. When she was 16, she started her construction job. And then she was a short order cook. Everyone called her the Sarge because she took nothing from nobody, which I think is really awesome. And I see like different parts of my personality.
Where did she fall in the 12?
She was in the middle.
And was it boys and girls? Was it evenly?
Boys and girls, pretty evenly distributed.
Yeah. I'm always find that fascinating because I think it really shapes the individuals on who was older than them, and
she
where
was
they
like
fall.
on the older side of the middle, so she it was her role to take care of the younger ones in the family, and My grandpa, her husband, also was one of 13, and 3 of them were nuns. So Margaret is one of my grandpa's sisters. She was a nun. And then there were twins, and but it was Irish Catholic families.
And where were they?
They lived in Seattle.
Okay.
So these are kind of the two sides, and then each of the wines has a name of a woman that I talk about the wines like they're people. So I wanted to give them names, personalities. So there's a reason behind why I chose the names for each wine. So the Eleanor, the Shannon Pickpole, is my Granny Oxlee, and she only drank white wine. And she drank it with lunch every day. She lived to 100. So did my grandpa. He was 102.
Her and I need
but
we would have hung out and drank Pickpole Shannon.
But they said their secret to life was, well, first of all, they lived in the Berkeley Hills, so they had a lot of stairs. So they went up and down stairs a lot. Secondly, they had a glass of wine with lunch every day. And thirdly, they had a vanilla milkshake after dinner. So that was their scientific secret to a long life.
I get behind that science.
Yeah, I know, right? So you heard it here,
Are there
guys.
forensics on that, Jenny?
We'll run some labs.
And then Margaret, the Albarino, is named after like I said, my great aunt. She was a nun, but all about women's education. And kind of this, my mom first met her and thought, oh gosh, I have to meet a nun. And then my dad has 3 aunts that are nuns. And so she said she went to meet her, and she climbed out of the pool at the convent, and her hair was everywhere, and she's wearing her swimsuit, and she just pulled my mom into one of the warmest hugs my mom's ever had. And she said that that was just her. She believed in everybody. She led with kindness, and I think that that's something to be celebrated. So, and then she also loved to travel. I read her whole autobiography before I named it after her, and she said her brothers would pay for her and her sisters to go on these trips, and she loved reading mystery books. And so I just thought the Albarino is the first wine that's not a French varietal in my lineup, so I thought it was kind of an exotic thing to name her after, or to name after her.
Where did the Albarino come from? The fruit?
It's Russian River. So it's Old Vine Lane Vineyard, which is kind of out by La Crema, behind the airport in Windsor. So middle reach, a little warmer, but still cool to kind of capture that acidity.
Yeah, you're I'm
a cool climate gal.
Yeah. Is there not a lot of Albarino out there? How much Albarino is planted around here?
There's not a lot. So Maramar is probably the biggest grower in Russian River. And then I think there's a few. I'm in another women in wine group called Russian River Valley Girls. Shout out to
Valley
them.
Girls.
Yeah. And so there's a few women in the group that have Albarino vineyards. But it's not widely planted if you look at the Grape Crush report, there's not a lot coming in from Russian River.
Do you know? So you know the owners of the vineyard. Have you asked them why they planted Albarino?
Yeah. So actually, the woman that I got connected to the current owner, she's no longer the owner, but she was the one that planted the vineyard. And she and her husband took a trip to Spain, and she just fell in love with the varietal. So, and she thought this would grow really well in our vineyard of Pinot and Chard. And so they carved out this little block right behind their house and planted Albarino, and it does really well. I mean, it's highly cropped, and yields are high on the vines, but
pretty vigorous.
But they just do really well, and it retains the acidity. I pull it pretty early in the season, so early September usually.
Is Albarino in Spain from a very warm area?
I think it differs. I think there's different, because there's some more mountainous stuff, and then there's some more valley stuff. So I think it can be really different.
If you're a drinker out there who loves a nice crisp Sauv Blanc, you'll love an Albarino.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
I
would really love Albarino.
Yeah, I do too. I would agree with that. I don't know very much about Spanish wine, so I was trying to.
How do you make that wine? Is it all done in stainless?
All stainless. So both my whites are completely stainless. The Eleanor's, the Shannon Pickpole, is stainless tank. So I want to keep it really kind of restrained and bright and fresh. And then the Albarino is stainless barrels. So I do a little bit of batonnage or stirring to those, and to create a little bit of cream, like whipped cream in there without, I don't want any oak influence. Right. So.
Can we get into the second Pinot?
Yeah.
So where are you making your wine these days?
So I am at a custom crush called Wines with Intent, formerly known as Inspiration.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So kind of in Coffee Park area. It's a funky little small kind of space, but I do most of my own work. So I have access to the facility. I have a key, and I can also host tastings there.
That's very key to have a key.
Yeah. Yeah. So by appointment, I can host tastings. And that's been pretty fun to have people come out.
And they do they do a winemakers event quarterly, right? Where all the winemakers have the option to come and pour at like an event they do at the winery.
Yes. Yeah. So we have all of the winemakers that are bonded there, which there's about 10 of us. We pour. And so it's a complimentary event, and it's always really fun. And we're right across the parking lot from Moonlight Brewing. So Moonlight always has a food truck, which makes it really nice. You can drink wine and then go have a sandwich instead of driving home right after.
Yeah, it's a really cool free event that if you are around or you're in San Francisco or something, and I'm sure that Jenny posted on her Instagram, but to go taste a bunch of different small producer winemakers for free in Santa Rosa. Well, yeah, I mean, if you're in San Francisco, you can drive up to Santa Rosa.
It was a 101.
Sorry if that was confusing. Anyway, you can take a day trip up and
make sure that Chablis wasn't hitting
and you
too
can
hard.
taste 10 different winemakers
Which one of us?
that you probably have never heard of who make great wine over there. I say this because I was looking there to see if I wanted to transfer my wine over there in Santa Rosa, and that was one of the big perks that I thought was super cool.
Yeah, who else is
Moose is getting some
where
love
Carol
at the table.
Is that
I can't remember.
I think Carol Shelton's got her own spot.
Yeah, she has her own spot there. There's a couple other custom crushes. Donalyn's in there.
Right.
But I'm like blanking. Gravity, custom crush is in there.
I think Sojourn was for some
I
reason.
think they were at Gravity.
They Sojourn didn't have their own spot. They were within a spot.
I remember buying barrels out of that warehouse one day.
The barrels they used for.
So before we move on to the second Pinot that we have today, I want to talk about the Pinot that you got from Santa Cruz, because that was so awesome that we tasted last week. So can you talk a little bit about that one?
Yeah. So Santa Cruz has always been something on my bucket list of wines I wanted to make.
You're a cool climate gal.
Cool climate gal. I'm from San Jose, so it's kind of my ode to home. So I wanted to find Pinot, and I was specifically looking for Mount Eden clone, which I did not find. But I thought, that'll be easy in Santa Cruz, you know? But something that I didn't really realize going into this venture was how hard it would be to find fruit that I really wanted. And I've been really lucky in finding vineyards that are really great to work with, small, family run operations. But Santa Cruz was something, Sonoma County is one thing for me. Mendocino, I have Alder Springs, which was kind of, I lucked into. But Santa Cruz was like this wild, wild west. I had no idea who to contact. But I have a good friend that makes wine down in Monterey. He owns a winery called Lepe Cellars. His name is Miguel. And I reached out to him and I said, hey, Miguel, we worked together he was at Crossbarn, but we worked together while I was at Paul Hobbs. And I said, hey, do you know anyone that grows Pinot in Santa Cruz? And he said, I know a couple people. Let me give you some names and you can reach out and see. They might know some people. So it was like this game of telephone started by him.
The thing about Santa Cruz, at least it seems to me, it's not like you can just go drive through the vineyards of Santa Cruz and knock on doors, because you have to know where to go.
Right. And it's so
remote.
peppered in there. Yeah. And so I went through this whole game of telephone and talked to a couple different people. And eventually one of the guys was like, oh yeah, I work with this great vineyard. It's called Galley. And they used to sell their fruit to Ridge, but they're no longer selling it to Ridge. So I think they've got a lot of Pinot available. And he said, it's always the best Pinot I work with every year. So I said, this all sounds great. So I went to meet with Joseph Galley, who does all the farming. But by day, he's a pediatrician. So turns out he shares an office with my old pediatrician, which was a total small world thing I didn't expect. But he goes, I'm going to ask Dr. Safer about you. I was like, please don't. I was like the weird girl that was like, he had to tell, you need to find like an adult doctor, like to leave.
Didn't know where we were going with that one.
He's like, you're 18 now. Maybe you should move on. But I just, I like the creature comforts. I don't like change.
I like the toys I can play with in the waiting room.
And you get like the toy. Yeah. And you get like the toy chest that I always put my teeth in when I lost them. But anyways, I guess I'm done losing teeth. I can move on. But
you should probably find a new dentist.
Yeah.
If you're still losing teeth.
Yeah. But so anyway, so this vineyard was really cool. It's in Corralitos. So it's on the ocean side of the mountain. And I said, I kind of want to go through and like clonal select and do like a fun little co-ferment, in the winery. And he said, yeah, anything you want. So, I work with 943, Calera, and Swan out there because he heard I was working with Swan pretty much everywhere else. And he goes, well, you've got to try my Swan. I was like, okay. So, but it's just turned into this wine that I just absolutely love. And it's so different. So all of my wines have, as now you guys have tasted most everything, they all have their own personality, which is what I want. I never want to be that winemaker that lines up my wines and they all taste the same.
6 different Russian rivers.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So Santa Cruz has become just this really special thing. I named it Anna after our next door neighbor when my parents had their first home. And she kind of became our pseudo nanny. We would go over and after school and she would take care of us when my parents were working. And she had a parrot that I thought was like the coolest bird in the world because it spoke Spanish. And then I just realized everyone in the house spoke Spanish. And that was what a parrot is. But I was like, wow, this parrot's so exotic, But she was from Guatemala or is from Guatemala. She still lives in the same house. So I get to drop off the Anna to her house now, awesome. Which is really cool. And so I asked her if it was okay if I used her name for kind of my ode to home and happy childhood. And she said, of course. And cried, of course. So, and her daughter's in my wine club. So it's been a really cool experience to have them be part of the process. So
what do you find is the real difference in the fruit from Santa Cruz?
It just has this like rusticity, but also salinity to it. It's got all the berries, kind of like you'd get from Russian River, or I get a lot from this wine that we're drinking now from Gap's View, Petaluma Gap. But it's just different. It has this like, I don't know, this like fresher kind of bramble component. But I describe it as your weird aunt that lives in a trailer. Like it's really fun and kind of different. You can't pinpoint what she's doing, but it's really good.
She's definitely smoking weed. I think.
Right. Well, and she for sure lives in Corralitos.
Yeah. Like, for sure. Yeah.
As far as
hanging
like, the weird
out,
aunt smoking weed in the trailer, there's some old apple trees in the front yard, a couple cars.
Yep.
And she's great.
Yeah.
We love her. We love her.
I mean, Corralitos is, makes sense as a great place to grow Pinot Noir. It's got, it's apple trees, but closer, more direct line to the bay, in Monterey Bay than like the apple country of Sebastopol.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
it'd be great to try that when you come back for your third episode.
Yeah, I know. Did we check the SD cards? Just kidding.
I actually have looked at it twice. I thought about it like 20 minutes in. Like, holy shit!
Is this one recording again?
Especially when it's the second one. Yeah.
So then you had another Pinot that we tried last week. That you named after your cellar master at Paul Hobbs' wife. Is that correct?
That was mother. The Petit Verdot.
Oh, the Petit. Sorry.
Yeah.
We'll get back to that.
I want to hear about the Petit Verdot because I heard great things about the Petit. I missed all those.
Oh, you didn't get to try it?
No, I
drank it. I
heard it was
the rest
around,
of it,
but nobody had offered
that day,
me.
And then also the remaining 2 days for some of our wine club members that we knew were particularly into Petit Verdot. So specifically Chris Yaryan.
She's gotten the Winemakers podcast bump without even having an episode out.
Yeah, totally.
Part's out.
I'm out.
Any shout outs for whenever this episode comes out?
No.
Okay, good answer.
Love to everybody drink more wine.
Drink more better.
Okay, so then can we talk about the Petaluma Gap first?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, okay. So this wine, the Dales Sonoma Coast, is my biggest production wine. So it's always been meant to be a blend of my vineyards. This first vintage, the 22, which is in our glass, was primarily pretty much 100% from Gaps View. So I only had 2 Pinot vineyards in 22. So this has a tiny bit of Alder Springs, but you know.
And where is the
It's
vineyard
very
exactly?
smooth.
So it's right behind the airport in Petaluma. So it's on the lowland, kind of flat land. But this was one of my first vineyards that I started working with. It's owned by Eric Flanagan of Flanagan Wines.
Yeah, shout out Eric Flanagan, who used to have Flanagan where now Corsi Graves is.
Oh, nice.
In Bennett Valley.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
he kind of up and moved his operation to Santa
Healdsburg.
Rosa or
He's in
Healdsburg.
Healdsburg, yeah. And he's such a nice guy. So he was one of those people that I didn't know how to find fruit. So I was like cold calling people and he answered my call. He's like, let's go check out the vineyard. And then as we're out there, he's like, yeah, I used to sell this fruit to Paul. And I was like, oh, great. I was trying to get out of that, but now I'm like using the same vineyard. And I looked it up and it was something that we utilized at Cross Barn, but not Paul Hobbs. But I just fell in love with this vineyard and the farming's gotten better and better. They've kind of switched things up a little bit. The soils are really, clay-like. They just like, they're too dry. So they've been doing a little bit more, cover crop and the soils have gotten a lot healthier. So, but the fruit is just amazing. So this is a 22, which was the hot vintage. I pulled this fruit the day before the heat spike. So I got it picked and it's just like beautiful. But then other vintages I think are just like progressively better because the weather was better for growing Pinot in this area. But this wine is one of my favorites. It's just so pretty. I made it in, so I think we talked about last time, but I'll bring up now. So I do have some custom tanks I use that are kind of modeled after milk tanks.
Okay, so on a previous show, we were talking about this, but we want to get the real story.
Yeah.
Subsequent show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not this good.
Because this is actually really interesting.
Yeah. So basically I have these custom tanks that are modeled after milk tanks. And I played with these a lot when I was at Paul Hobbs. And so I've since had one built for Oxlee Graham that is better than those tanks because it has a sample valve and more jackets.
Because a winemaker designed
Yes.
The sample valve thing is so real, though.
Yeah.
So
it matters.
It matters.
Well, then you don't have to open the tank and expose it to airflow and whatever else is in the winery.
Expose yourself to getting blasted by the
racking
the
valve.
racking valve when you're trying to pull a
That's
sample.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't wear a white sweatshirt.
And this tank, because of its shape, it only has a bottom valve and a sample valve. So there is no racking valve. So then you're just blasted by the bottom valve.
It's
But
like the cone at the bottom.
so it's like a rectangle. So it's really low to the ground and it but the beauty of it is that it makes for the surface area of the cap so big and so thin. So you're getting better heat exchange. The wine itself under the cap doesn't get as hot. So you're capturing more florals and kind of these delicate nuances in the wine. So I designed the tank for Petit Verdot specifically. But then, of course, Petit Verdot comes in later in the season. So I get to throw a Pinot in every year. So this was the wine that I put in that tank that first year. And I think you can kind of tell it has that a little bit more floral, a little bit more delicate. It's just a really unique kind of way to ferment.
We're all shaking our heads
Will you-
as she says
Will
it.
you, and maybe I just wasn't paying attention, which is possible, describe the shape of and sort of like how this tank is different than your average like rectangular fermentation tank?
So it's gonna be short and long. So normally, like I would ferment in like a conical. So it would be, a big tall tank that you have the cap that's pretty compact, pretty thick. This is gonna be short to the ground. It's like, I don't know, I'm 5'7". It's probably 4 feet, maybe 3.5 feet tall.
That's short.
And then it's just really long. So you're now increasing your surface area of your cap. Yeah. So your cap is really large but thin, and then all the wine under it. So
like a
my
pancake.
tank,
a square or a rectangle pancake.
Yeah, rectangle pancake. So it's not the most space efficient tank, because it's kind of awkward and long, but it has fork.
You can move it with.
You can move it, on all sides. It has fork channels. So
how much does it hold?
2.5 tons. So, but it's a great little tank. So again, that was something, the Paul Hobbs tanks only hold 2. So I was like, I want to have that half ton. It matters, you know, if you come in at 2.2, it matters.
For sure.
So,
but how did you figure that out? Wait,
so they're modeled after milk tanks. So
Right.
like William Sellium's famous for using milk tanks in their fermentations. Paul was, with all of his travels, he's seeing things like that all over the world. And so we decided we should make some tanks that, were modeled after those, but custom to us, that we could add a jacket. But then being at Paul Hobbs, everything has to be really sleek. So it didn't have jackets on the sides or the front. It had it on the back and the bottom. And channels on one side, which like everything. So there's all these things. And then we had more made because we loved them so much. We made 2 originally. We had 2 more made. And then we did a little more bells and whistles to the second iteration. But they were just something that we loved for Pinot. But then I started playing with Petit Verdot in those tanks.
Oh, I know what I wanted to ask. When you were playing with Petit Verdot at Paul Hobbs, was it coming from Napa?
Coombsville.
It was coming from Coombsville.
The estate.
So you were getting it to blend in with the cab initially?
Yeah.
And
so I had about, 8 tons of Petit Verdot. And so I could split into these small tanks and really play with how it wanted to be treated. And that was kind of my philosophy. Again, because I talk about the wines like they're people. We had another vineyard that's a Beckstoffer vineyard called Las Piedras that every year we just made it like the Toquan and the Crane, and it never got the same scores or accolades. And then I'm like in the cellar one day and I'm tasting it. I'm like, you want to be treated like mountain fruit, even though it's not, it's valley floor. But I'm like, you're a mountain fruit vineyard. And so I started splashing it more, giving it more air, giving it more. And immediately we started getting better scores. So it was like one of those things you have to kind of look at the fruit and adapt your winemaking practices to the vineyard, to the clone, to whatever. So that philosophy goes into everything I do, whether it's barrels or tanks or whatever temperature.
That vineyard it's valley floor, but it's not flat. That's part as you're driving into Coombsville. There's definitely like you're sort of it's almost like foothillish.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a cool
bottom,
spot.
Yeah. So this wine, the Dales, it was the first year it was all Gaps View. The second year, the 23, it's a blend of all the vineyards, but primarily Gaps View and my Tenuta Ridge, which we tasted last time. So it is called Sonoma Coast, and it's named after my mom, Dale, because it's kind of the backbone to the winery, and she's my backbone. But our stories are different.
Shout out to moms.
I said our stories are that I wanted... Well, I asked her which wine she wanted to be named after her, and she said whatever the highest production is, because she wanted her name on the most bottles. But I said, no, there's a reason. So anyways, this is the Dales, and it is one of our most, you'll find it the most places, wine shops and wine bars and things like that.
So for you, high production, what's high production?
This first vintage, I made about 150 cases. Yeah. And then the second vintage, I made about 250 cases. So that's kind of our big production wine. Yeah. It's still pretty small.
That also makes your mom seem a little less like sort of pretend with the
less of a baller.
Yeah. No. Less like full of herself somehow. The big production wine that she wanted to be is 250 cases. All right, Mom, we see you. You're good.
She does also help with all the club packs and all the,
so she gets to see every single one of those 250 cases of Dale.
Yep. Yeah. And then the other Pinot that we tried last time was called the Jones, and that's from Tenuta. So that's my Russian River Valley Pinot. And Joan is my mom, Dale's sister. So she's my aunt. She was a librarian her whole career. Married to a muralist, so they live kind of a cool. artsy life in Oakland. But so that was a cool thing to see. As I was growing up, we'd go to all the mural release parties and meet all the artists of the East Bay, and that's kind of a cool thing to be a part of. But the Tenuta Ridge is a small vineyard. I was getting all of their fruit. It's 3 acres, planted to Swan and 115. But it's run by a couple, Mike and Lynn, that are just fantastic. And she grows Lynn's lavender. So
she's part of the
Russian River Valley Girls. Yeah, that's how I got involved. But she grows lavender commercially. So she makes, lotions and potions.
Wait, is the lavender growing out the same spot as the vineyard?
Yeah, it's kind of
intertwined. Remember we said, now that you say that, we can kind of taste the lavender in the wine.
Yeah.
100%. And then I'm thinking it's scary as hell going out there. Like when you go to Matanzas Creek certain times of the year, when you get out of your car, there's literally like a vibration on the property from...
Yeah, and she has a garden and she's got chickens out there. And it's just like this whole other world. But the bees are a big part, I think, of what makes that vineyard so special. They have a pond there that all the, local wildlife comes to drink from the pond, foxes and things. So it's just a cool spot, and it's literally cool, like very cool climate, right outside of
cool.
right outside
the
of Occidental.
Proper use of the word literally on this podcast, folks.
So, but it's just a neat spot. So, I think those are all 4 of the Pinot vineyards that I sourced from. Alder Springs I didn't mention, but their big pest pressure are bears, which I think is like the best thing ever. So Stu told me
we've talked to other Alder Springs,
if
Morgan and Chris.
If you leave your fruit out too long, the bears
will eat it all. And so Stu says that he has the fanciest clientele because they show up in fur coats. That's like his joke, which is like my favorite.
I'm so glad we re-recorded so we could have that joke. That didn't make the first cut.
And the bears really like Viognier, so I'm
not
glad I don't
only
make
bears.
Viognier.
Yeah. I think turkeys, deer, birds, me, we all like Viognier. They're just delicious. Yeah. So can we talk about a little bit of personal stuff?
Well, I want to talk about the Petit Verdot.
Oh, Petit Verdot.
Other than the cool tank. Where is it from? Why did everybody drink it and not save any for me? What the fuck?
Because here's the thing with Petit Verdots. You don't see a lot of standalone Petit Verdot. Mm-hmm. A lot of times it gets used in blending. Plus, from what I've heard people say is that it's kind of a pain in the ass because it is a late ripener. And even I think that's sometimes why it doesn't make it into Bordeaux blends, because like everything else is in and they're just kind of like, well, are we going to get the Petit Verdot this year or not? Like, is it going to ripen or not?
Yeah.
So sometimes you'll see those blends that sometimes they have Petit Verdot and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
But to make one on its own is, I don't think anyone has treated it the right way. I think most people are making Bordeaux varietals, and so they're maybe treating it like Cab and Cab Franc and Merlot. But you kind of have a different...
Yeah, it goes back to that. I really try to understand how the grapes want to be treated and different varietals want to be treated in the cellar. But so that milk tank is custom built, or the rectangular tank is custom built for the Petit Verdot. And I played with it a lot at Paul Hobbs, and it was one of those wines that it was always blended into the cab, and it came from the same estate. So, it just became part of the blend.
What do people think it generally adds in a Bordeaux blend?
Color and tannin. Yeah. So it can kind of give it a little bit of oomph when you add it. And we used it for a lot of our wines. But when I started kind of taking over the winemaking at Paul Hobbs, we were making Petit Verdot just like Cabernet in a regular conical closed top tank, doing pump overs, normal stuff. And another winemaker that was there with me at the time, Greg Ermini, and myself, we started thinking maybe this isn't the best way to look at Petit Verdot. And so we started saying, okay, let's do, a typical conical closed top tank like we would. Let's do an open top conical tank. And then let's do this weird, we call them Murphy tanks after me, but this weird milk tank. And so let's see what they do. So we split up, the Petit Verdot into these 3 different tanks and treated them, did some punch downs on the open tops, treated the conical just like a control, just doing sprinkling over the top and splashing. And we kind of we were like, man, that Murphy tank is so good. Like the florals, because Petit Verdot can be so full of violets and lavender, and it's a really pretty varietal. But when you make it like a Cabernet, it's kind of shut down and is tannin and color. And so that was super boring. The open top was pretty good, but not as good as that Murphy tank because it had all these florals and orange peels and cloves. And so we thought, man, that was so good. So then the next year we did the same exact experiment to see if we could repeat it. Same exact results. And so every time we're like, man, that Petit Verdot is so good. So finally I said, we should really bottle some of this, because collectors might want, we do 50 cases, collectors might want to put some Petit Verdot in their cellar with a Paul Hobbs label on it.
Unicorns.
Yeah. And the sales team, the hospitality team, they were like, nobody wants Petit Verdot. So then whenever they'd have top tier customers come in, they'd say, give them a special tour in the cellar, pour them something special, or, barrel sample something special. I always did Petit Verdot. And they told me, they go, you've got to stop doing that. Because then they would, on their order forms, they'd write 1 case of Petit Verdot. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not going to stop awesome. Because I want to bottle Petit Verdot. Yeah. I never got to do it. So then when I started my own brand, I knew I was going to make Petit Verdot in that style. Obviously, it was going to be a different vineyard because I wasn't getting estate Paul Hobbs fruit. But I source from Fountain Grove, which is unique in itself. Cool climate. And it's just this wine that I love making, and I like surprising people because they're like, oh yeah, Petit Verdot, or I've had Petit Verdot.
That's probably why I
didn't
come over and taste it when I had the chance, to be honest. Let me cop to it.
It's so good. Yeah. It's so good.
But I make it sort of like a Pinot with a mix of cab. So in the mornings, it looks like a cab, pump overs, splashing, giving it air. And in the evenings, it's like a Pinot. I do punch downs, and so it's
punch downs. So this is an open top.
Open top tank.
The Murphy is an open top tank. Okay.
Yeah.
Are those available?
I know.
What's the special code to order one of those?
Yeah, how much are they?
I think I paid around $14,000 for the tank, something like that. Custom built from Silver State. Shout out to Silver State Stainless in Nevada.
I wonder what a Grenache would do in there.
Oh, it'd be so
I think
pretty.
it'd be so good.
It'd be so good. I would, if I had my druthers, I would have all Murphy tanks, but I don't. So
they're $14,000.
Yeah.
When I love
and they take up a lot of room.
Right.
And I'm in a custom crush facility.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't want everybody else to hit me.
That's so cool that you got to do experimentation on someone else's dime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got to do that with barrels too, and really nail in what coopers I like working with for different reasons. And Petit Verdot, I mean, it'll eat up oak like no one's business, but it still matters. So I just racked my 25 yesterday. And I taste through everything before I rack, and I, taste through everything every month. But I'm like, man, like the Boots barrels are just so pretty on Petit Verdot because they just bring out those florals and the blues and the sea salts but then there's other barrels that are bringing out the cloves and the orange peel so it's like, it's so important to have that diversity, I think, for me in the cellar, because it makes the wine so complex and layered when you put it back together.
Especially when you're making small amounts, to be able to work that diversity in.
Yeah.
Cool.
Exactly.
So if you were at Paul Hobbs and you were doing the Petit Verdot in the Murphy tanks, would it even be something that they would want to blend into the Bordeaux blends? Or at that point, the way you're making it is a completely different thing that wouldn't add?
No, it was great. It was great as a component. I mean, because it added this whole other layer. It was no longer just tannin and color. It became this like, oh, that really can bring some, like the Las Piedras vineyard that I was talking about. We could put a little Petit Verdot in there, and it brought out the florals even more. And
more expressive.
It's just, just becomes a more complex blender.
Did you guys use Malbec at all?
We didn't. We had a small block out there. We had all 5 Bordeaux varietals at one point. But the Malbec didn't make it. I think it was a suitcase clone. I know when I say I think, I know it was, but.
Okay. I was just curious because I think Malbec.
Sorry, nobody's listening. No one will get in trouble.
I've had Malbec that has that violet and lavender and real blue fruit.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if you got a chance to throw some
No, we
of that
didn't. It never made it, so I never got to play with it. The Merlot out there was one that Paul had kind of written off, and it mostly went to Cross Barn. But I was like, let me have 2 tons of it. I'm going to put it in a Murphy tank and put some whole cluster. Oh, that's the other thing, is I use whole cluster in my Petit Verdot, which adds some tension and mid palate, because sometimes Petit Verdot can be a little hollow. But the Merlot, I was like, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put some whole cluster. And I think I was really nervous when I did. I called Paul and I'm like, I'm going to put some whole cluster in the Merlot. Is that like, are you against that? And he's like, you're the winemaker, do whatever you want. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then of course it turned out really well. And then he's like, oh yeah, that's how I always made Merlot. And I was like, is it?
You have the perfect disposition and attention to detail that I think Paul probably really appreciated.
Yeah.
Because I know that he was very much like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he is definitely someone that likes perfection. He likes details to be tended to. But he would often tell me I liked accuracy too much, because like my experiments would be like whole cluster down to the like
berry.
Yeah, basically
to the stem.
Yeah. And like he's like, oh, that's pretty accurate. Yeah, well, it's an experiment. Of course, it's got to be.
Science, bro.
I'm sure he loved that.
Yeah,
you
he
went
did.
that far.
He did.
It's
So
like,
I have a question, and this is, you came from the science lab side of it. When in your process and how in your process to go from where you started, taking DNA samples to where you are now, did you realize that you had a palate for wine? Because clearly, like, you can do all the science, but without having the sort of like appreciation and understanding of it all, what you're doing, you wouldn't be able to do what you're doing. So at what point, like, coming from the lab world, did that like click for you that you got this shit, and how did that happen? Yeah,
I think so. Some of the best advice I ever got in my career was from he was the crossbarn winemaker at the time. His name is Jason Valenti. Now he's at Unti.
He can help us make Unti. There you
go. But he's like one of the nicest people I worked with, and he was the original enologist at Paul Hobbs when the facility was built. I had the scars on the counter to prove it. He's like, yeah, I blew up a cache still. But he told me, you have the best seat in the house because everything comes through here. So run your numbers, but taste every day, because then you understand what the numbers mean and what they taste like. And so I really took that to heart. And half the time it was just me in the lab running, all those samples through. So I didn't have a ton of time, but when I did, I would taste. My lab was, shared a wall or doorway with the tasting room that the winemakers use to taste everything and make all the final blends. So I would hear them tasting the wines, talking about the wines that I knew so intimately from a number standpoint and had seen so often. So I would kind of listen to how they described things and the words they used. And we really did develop like our own language. I think every house has their own tasting terms, which is hard to break out of sometimes. But so it was something that I just started tasting and understanding. And then I remember when I moved into the assistant winemaker role, I was really nervous because I knew I had a fairly good palate, but I didn't know how to like verbalize it, and I knew what I liked, and I definitely knew defects because I was trained to like sniff out a defect. Right. So to this day, I have a really hard time drinking wines that are not perfect, quote unquote perfect. But it was one of those.
Keith, when we need him.
Yeah.
They're not perfect. They're trying their best. Yeah. They're doing their best. That's all we ask.
But so I just remember one of the assistant winemakers that was before me. He was like, "You have a really good palate. Just like be confident in that." And I think confidence was never something that was like in my repertoire. So it was one of those things that took me time. But once I figured out I had a really good palate, I kind of went all in. And tasting with Paul, I mean, he really is, it's an amazing experience to have gotten to taste with him and work with him in like on blending wines. Because the first few times, like just the way that he kind of approached it and thought about it and fine tuning, adds or tweaks to the wines, it was really interesting. And so I learned a ton from that approach. So I still use that when I blend now. But I taste all the barrels. I make notes on all the barrels. I have an idea of what each wine's personality is. And I did the same thing at Paul Hobbs. Although now I taste 23 barrels, and there I tasted like 600 barrels to make my blends. So I'd have to call the chef and be like, I need a pizza. But but I put together blind trials of each wine. And so I'll say, okay, I really like, these. I mean, I only have 4 barrels of something like the Mabels, but I'll say, okay, I want to do it with these 3 barrels. And then I want to do like half of that barrel, so it's like down to the percentage. And then I'll set up like 4 blinds, and then I'll let them sit, go home, change my venue, taste them all blind, and say, like, it's usually pretty obvious. You're like, that's the wine. Like, that's an aha wine. And so that's kind of how I approached it there. And I would set up those same trials for Paul and we'd go through that same process. But it took me kind of seeing how he worked and how he wanted to work for me to kind of really fine tune that. And so then by the time I was, leaving Paul Hobbs, I would basically have everything set up and it would be as quick as him being there for an hour to confirm blends and then we'd be done. So it was pretty quick, but now it takes me a whole day to figure out my Pinot blends from 23 barrels. So
it's funny how that goes.
Yeah.
Are you listening to music while you're doing this?
Yeah, usually podcasts. Comedy podcasts are my favorite.
Comedy.
Sorry, I mean wine podcasts are what I'm listening to.
Come on.
Well, there's only
comedy
wine
podcast.
podcasts aren't funny.
Yeah. Like what kind of comedians, or is it people like Dax or whatever?
No, I like Conan O'Brien's podcast a lot just because it's pretty mindless and I can laugh while I'm working and if I miss 30 minutes because I'm really focused on something, I didn't miss that much. So I mean, in the best way, like you can kind of, no, I mean, it's great. It really is a funny podcast.
He wasn't going to come on our show.
But Conan's got me through the topping on Monday. I was there all day. So,
because weren't you in drama when you were younger? Were you like a theater person?
I was a dance person when I was younger. And then in college, I thought maybe drama was something that would be really interesting. So, and then I found out you could get something called the BAS, a BAS, that is like a Bachelor of Art and Science. So like, that's what I'm getting. I want to tell people I have a BAS, because why not? Yeah. And then I realized I couldn't do chemistry and drama because the labs were way too time intensive. So I had to pick.
Science takes everything from you, especially those 8 a.m. Friday classes, man.
Exactly.
Which is why I was always on the other side of that.
So I decided I should pick what I would actually utilize.
No Thirsty Thursdays for science majors.
No.
I didn't even know they had classes on Friday, to be honest.
All right, so let's tell people how they can get a hold of these wines.
So my website's probably the best place where you can see all of them. And that's Oxlee, Oxlee, Graham, Graham, wines.com. And also you can book tastings there if you want to come visit us, and I'll open some wines and show you the little facility we're in.
Are all these wines currently available?
All of these wines are currently available. Yeah. The Chenin Picpoul, the first vintage of 23, I have 5 cases left. So run, don't walk.
Sold.
You had 5 cases before this aired.
And then who does social media for you?
I do.
You do it all.
I do everything.
Yeah.
I write all the copy. You get handwritten notes if you order anything from me. All of my wine clubs come with little wine charms that my sister and I design, and they're metal wine charms for your glasses. So that's pretty fun. And you got to join so you get all the collectibles.
Got to collect them all.
That's right.
I love this.
But everything, I mean, there's a ton of thought that goes into every aspect of these wines. I also self-distribute and do all the sales. So we're slowly getting out there. There's a few shops throughout California that carry our wines. Most of them are probably sold out because I've been really busy with harvest. But
it's not a bad thing.
No.
Sold out is good.
But I am kind of working on growing, so people can get it in their neighborhoods as well. But website's the best place right now.
Is there a tiny dog in the middle of your QR code?
There is. That's my Scotty dog. He is my
Oxlee.
Love of my life. Yeah, Oxlee. So
the dog is named Oxlee?
Yeah, he is not.
You guys talked about the dog on the episode?
No.
Okay.
No, he's on my website. So the story of Oxlee is he was born February 26th. My granny passed away early February of the same year, in 2021. And so I had thought, everyone names their dogs Murphy, which is my last name. So I want to use someone's surname. And I've always loved the name Oxlee. And we don't use it a lot in our family because it was my granny's, maiden name. So I was like, well, Oxlee would be really cool. So I decided to get my little Scotty and name him Oxlee. And then 2 months later, I decided to start a wine brand. And I was like, I still really like the name Oxlee. So now it seems like I named everything after my dog, but I did not.
That's awesome.
And I also had to change the spelling of Oxlee because there is a tiny liquor company called Bacardi that has a gin called Oxlee. So
Never heard of it.
it's really small, but they thought it might be a problem for trademarks. So
what's the actual spelling of your grandmother's?
Oxley
With a Y. Okay.
Yeah.
I like the spelling.
Yeah, it looks really nice. Yeah.
I'm so glad we got you back because your wines are fantastic.
And the story's great.
And
Well, good.
I love finding wines. Thank you, Danielle. That like, how else would I get to try your wines? You have to have someone that introduces you to it.
It's the real reason we have a wine podcast.
100%.
Can you? One more thing that I want to revisit is the name of your Petit Verdot is named after your cellar master's mom. But because it was an ode to your cellar master and how you give him credit for learning so much coming up through Paul Hobbs. So I thought it was really beautiful that you were giving, we often as winemakers take a lot of credit for the wines that we make, but we don't talk about the people who helped us make them. And so I want to give you that opportunity like you did last time. So.
Yeah. Thank you. So the Petit Verdot is called the Enadina, which is Roberto. He's the cellar master, still is the cellar master at Paul Hobbs. He's been there, I think, for like, I don't even know, I lose track, but like 22 years, 23 years, something like that. So he's truly the backbone of the quality of those wines. And we, for a long time, we didn't filter. Everything was native, which is still a philosophy I try to adopt as much as I can in my own program. But things like moving the wine, racking the wine, was really important to the quality. And so he was someone that was so fundamental in teaching me that and showing me, how important those things are. So I still to this day call him in panics of like, okay, I'm blending the Pinot. Like, tell me again, like, how did you, because I would come up with these crazy blends that then would become his problem in the cellar. And like I was saying, like 5 gallons of this barrel and then 15 of this. And then he's just like, I would say I hand him the work orders and he smiled back, but he didn't. He'd be like, I know what I'm in for. But, it's something that he was just masterful, and his team that he trained, I mean, there's still a lot of those guys are still there. They're still part of my family. I invite them to my release parties and send them Christmas cards. And, but they just were so good at what they did. And so I learned a ton from that, and try to employ that, when I'm working on my wines now, being that kind of detail oriented about the wine movement itself.
Yeah, and because he taught you how important it was, you now do all your own stuff for your own wines.
Yeah, I try to do as much as I can. Topping, I mean, even topping is so important to make sure that everything's clean and everything's done so it's actually topped. And that was something that I struggled with. When we have interns and you have a bunch of people moving around the cellar, I would send interns to go do a topping project, and then I'd go look and they're like not really topped. Like that wasn't what I wanted.
To the bottom of the bunghole, please.
Yeah, not just like what you think is topped. So it was one of those things that I try to do everything myself because I like it to be done a certain way, and I realize it's less annoying to just do it myself. So if I don't do it, like yesterday I did rack Petit Verdot with the owner of Wines with Intent does all the work that I don't do. And he was there with me, helping me rack and do all of that. So, which I like because then I don't have to clean.
Well, and did you show him how you like it done?
I do stand there and
shout out to Patrick.
Yeah. I do stand there and stand over him. So I don't think he loves it. I think I'm the only client that does that, but But I know that it was done right.
Talk to him or joke around with him at the time, or are you just staring
we do,
at him?
and we listened to Christmas music yesterday, so that it was festive.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right, cool. You guys want to? What do we want to mention?
Go buy Oxlee Graham wines.
100%.
It is unfair. There is no Shannon Pickbull left. We've had 2 shows.
Sorry.
Brian's got it all.
There is some 2024.
Look forward to the 26 vintage. It'll be the best ever.
Thank you so much, Jenny, for coming back on and recording with us. We really enjoyed having you here. Really a treat for us because now we got to taste every
Everything.
single wine.
Yep.
And
That's why we did it.
we love them all. We love every single one. You're a great winemaker,
Well, thank
and people should buy your wines.
I will
100%.
say the Gaps View that we talked about is now called Gloria's. So if you're looking for Gaps View specific, it's the Gloria's Gaps View.
Glorious.
Gloria's, which is my dad's
Are you fighting
cousin.
with your mom?
No, she's still the blend. She's still the Sonoma
Oh, okay.
Coast blend. But in 23, it turned into a true blend, and then Gloria's came online.
Gotcha.
So-
Gotcha. So it's a new wine.
Wait,
A new wine.
And who's Gloria?
Gloria is my dad's cousin. I guess she's my second cousin, but she's kind of my third grandma.
Okay.
So she lives up in Bothell area in Washington. And just, she was, of my grandmothers, they were both great. Neither of them were like cuddly, you know, like like what you'd picture on a movie where they feed you all the time and rub your back. And neither of my grandmas did that, but Gloria does. So Gloria is my third grandma. She's still living up in Washington. So I can't wait till I get to go visit her. But she was very honored to be on a bottle as well. So
And can I just say that I'm still stuck in my head on the nun coming out of the pool in the convent.
I know,
Of,
right?
like, there's like a little bit of like Fast Times at Ridgemont High scene in there, but it's also like a little sister act. I'm not really sure where to go with it.
And a little bit of
It's
Sound of
definitely-
Music.
Yeah, it's like,
kind of
is this
Phoebe
appropriate?
Cates,
Probably
Julie
not.
Andrews kind of crossbreed.
Totally. That's great. We should get some AI to make that a video.
Let's not. All right, you guys. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. We hopefully will see you at the DTC Symposium in January. I know Elaine Chuck and Brown is going to be one of the
Keynote.
speakers.
And
one
then
of
we'll
the
get her on
keynote
the
speaker.
We'll finally get Elaine on the podcast.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah,
She's only been on like 4 or 5 times, but it's been a while.
yeah. Shout out to Hawk Waka Waka.
Yeah.
Thanks
And go
everybody
buy
for
her book,
listening.
if you haven't
Oh yeah, go
already.
buy her book. And thanks everybody for listening. And thanks for having me on the podcast at the end of this year, guys. I've really enjoyed myself, and I'm glad to be here.
Great
So,
addition.
Yeah, I know it's weird having all these experts on wine. Now I feel like the total bonehead. It was nice having John on because at least I sounded kind of intelligent. And now I'm like, I'm with people who actually make wine. So now I'm like the other
I'm here
guy.
with you, bringing down the denominator.
Yeah, I've only been in vineyards since I was a child and made wine since I was a teenager. Shut up.
I don't know anything though.
You
See it
had
all.
to get something through some kind of osmosis. Is that right? Is that the right use?
Yeah.
Use of the term? Yeah. See,
It is.
the
It's
scientist.
actually. It's in my DNA. I found out.
Thank you.
From the blood
We
splatter.
Jenny tested it.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
I
if
did,
anyone-
I did, yeah. I
Has
ran
any-
it through the lab.
Is anyone watching Pluribus on Apple?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's good.
Just started last night. I didn't get
What
much
an
sleep
ending.
because I just talking about DNA and yeah.
It's virus. RNA.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Okay.
go. I'm gonna
Thanks,
go
everybody.
watch the rest of it
To
tonight.
check it out.
All right. Thanks, guys. Happy New Year.